Have you ever watched a video and thought, wow, I would really like to work with this person? Well, this is because of the 4 things top presenters and personal brands do in their content that influences you to become a buyer. So in this video, I'm going to break down what they do. I'm going to show you why teaching in videos won't actually help you get sales or views. And then I'm going to show you how to use the system to ethically turn your own viewers into buyers. Right, so let's start with what the system used to create influence is. And it looks like this. I call this the influence diamond, and each corner of the diamond plays a different part in creating influence. All you need to do is use all 4 in a video. So let's look at the first, which makes viewers go from skeptical viewers to engaged listeners. And it works like this. So have you ever made a video that didn't do as well as you'd hoped, and you thought to yourself, what the fiddlesticks, that information was just so flipping good? Well, that happens because great information is not what grows followings and businesses. Because when people listen to your content, they will always be asking themselves, yes, but does this information actually apply to me? And this is why teaching alone won't get you views and sales, because first you need to make sure your viewers realize what you're about to say is relevant to them and their own situation. But how do you do that? Well, let's look at how Gary Vee does it. So just listen to these clips that I've taken from his video, and then I'm going to explain.
How many of you tried a little bit and didn't get the results you were looking for? Let's raise your hands. If your content is completely selfish and it's only about like, hey, this is what I do and I'd like you to give me money, you're not mad at it. You're mad at it's gonna take your money.
So in this video, Gary Vee, over 20 times, spends time describing the exact experience his audience is likely having around the information that follows. And he does that by calling out beliefs and frustrations and objections that they might have. So when he says most of you are going to make a video and get 7 views, you've probably felt that, right? I know I have. So what Gary is doing over and over again in his content is known as recognition. It is the first part of the influence diamond. And to create it, all you need to do is identify behaviors and thoughts that your viewers have, and then mention them in your videos before you give information. If you do this, viewers are going to realize, oh, this applies to me. And when that happens, they pay more attention and they trust you more. The thing is, although recognition is going to get viewers to listen, that still doesn't mean they trust your advice that follows. So here's the second cornerstone of the influence diamond. And if you've ever wondered that someone's going to argue with your opinion in the comments, this is what will stop it. And Layla Hormozi is incredibly good at using this. Throughout this video, for example, she says things like this all of the time.
The first limiting belief or system of beliefs that is keeping you poor is what I call the money script. The next limiting belief keeping you poor is what we call a wealth ceiling. I paid $3 million to learn this lesson. There's research by financial psychologists. The research on this is very clear. When I had $100 million net worth, I didn't even want to spend over a couple $1 million on the house.
So Layla, in that video, named things like wealth ceilings and money scripts and scarcity mindset. Then she backs up what she's going to talk about with research, stating things like financial psychologists talk about 4 types of money scripts. And then she proves she's lived through the problem and landed on the solution for herself too, with comments like, when I had 100 million net worth, I didn't even want to spend over a couple of million on a house. In fact, in this single video, she referenced research over 6 times and used personal stories and proof over 10, which is very intentional because all of this creates credibility and this makes viewers trust her more. And that is the second corner of the influence diamond. The thing is, we don't all have $100 million of credibility to our name, right? So what do you do to create that? Well, here's what I did, and it helped me pick up 2 silver play buttons and double my business 3 years in a row. So here's what I asked myself before I plan each piece of content. First, can I support what I'm about to say with evidence? That might be a study, it might be a famous example, it might be visual proof that I flash up on screen. Second, can I prove that I have experienced this problem and solved it myself? Proof can be as simple as just sharing a story. So you might have dated 10 awful men and then finally found that one that you fell in love with. That might be your story. You might have been struggling to lose weight and then finally found a solution that actually worked for you. It can be as simple as that. And then the third thing I think about is, how can I name the solution that I'm going to teach? So in the guitar world, they have the caged system. In Layla's videos, we had money scripts. In the video you're watching right now, we have the influence diamond. What happens is when you give your solution a name, even if it's not that revolutionary, it makes it easier to remember, it makes it easier to explain, and it also sounds unique and new. And when you do all 3 of these things, the end result is you raise your own credibility and you start being someone with a proven method, which brings us onto the third part of the diamond. And this is called transformation. Now, this one is a bit harder to grasp, so pay attention. And I guess the best way to explain is like this. So have you ever come up with a product or a service or a video idea that you genuinely thought was brilliant, and then nobody wanted it? Yet you just kept trying to push this idea. Well, years ago, that was me. I came up with what I thought was the perfect offer. And for £300 a month, clients could come to my production studio whenever they wanted, and we would film and then edit their content. And it was unlimited. They could drop in 5 times a month if they wanted. To be honest, it still sounds like a great deal to me. But hardly anyone wanted to buy it. So I changed the pricing and the terms, and I ran ads, and I did email marketing, and I absolutely obsessed for years over trying to sell my genius invention. Meanwhile, we had another service where we traveled to a client's location and we just filmed case study videos for them. It was about 12 times more expensive, I think, and people just threw money at us for them. Eventually, I realized why my offer was not selling, but the other videos would, and it was because of this. So for years, I thought my problem was marketing, and that I needed better marketing to solve it. But the real problem was I was actually just trying to sell something that meant people had to think of content ideas, prepare what they were going to say, drive to my studio, spend an hour filming, present on camera, which they hated doing, and then drive back. So the real problem wasn't marketing. It was that actually I was trying to sell something to people that they didn't want because it didn't make their life easier. It gave them more work and it made it harder. So that is what transformation is about. It's in your videos making someone realize the problem they think they have here at the start isn't the actual problem they have, and then leading them to the right one. Meaning when they finish watching your video, they see the problem they have completely different. So a great example of this in action was when Tony Robbins interviewed Hormozi recently, where Alex goes in and he believes that more achievement will equal more fulfillment in life. And Tony tells him this story, which helps him figure out the answer for himself.
Take the astronauts. I got to interview several of them, right? And they make it back and survive. They splash down. They have a ticker tape parade. They shake the president's hand. Now, what the do you do after you've walked on the moon for adventure? I guess like you're 35 and you walked on the moon. What do you do?
So that is the difference between just trying to teach in a video and trying to create transformation. I mean, imagine if Tony had just said achievement doesn't create fulfillment. You'd have forgotten it in minutes. You wouldn't have really understood it either. But you're going to remember that astronaut story. And more importantly, you figured out the conclusion for yourself, which made you feel smarter for getting there too, and made you understand it. But how do you figure out that transformation that you need to show? Well, here's a few ways I've done it. So every now and then I send a simple form to my email list and I ask my viewers, what is your problem right now? And then I use this form to make roast videos where I help them solve the problem. But on top of that, I've got over 1,900 responses. And when I look through them, it shows me the most common problems people think they have. And of course, it is almost never the actual problem they have. So that list gives me exactly what the viewers think their problem is. So all I have to do is write the real problem next to it. And I've got this giant list of potential transformations I could show in a video. Then all you do is find one story, which could be yours or a client's, that shows the journey of someone who started thinking they had that problem and ended up realizing the real one. And this is what you need to understand, is that great content doesn't teach. Great content shows people how to think differently, which brings us on to the fourth part of the dynamic. So have you ever watched a video and thought to yourself, oh, that's genius, that's such a great idea, and then had absolutely no idea how to apply it to your own situation or action the advice? That feeling is the difference between making content that's interesting and content that actually creates influence. Because if your viewer walks away inspired, but they still feel kind of confused, they're never going to buy from you, because confusion kills trust and conversion faster than anything else. So how do you become a creator who doesn't fall into that trap? Well, check out this video from Ali Abdal. It's all about finding your niche. Now, finding your niche is easily one of the most confused topics on the internet. And I genuinely think it's because most videos on it just say you need to find your niche, and they stop explaining it to you. But in this video, Ali just lays out a nice simple system where viewers can actually follow each step, meaning they can try it out for themselves. And that's the final piece of the puzzle that makes influence kick in, because when someone watches free content and then understands it's useful for them and then believes you have the credibility to educate them on the issue, then they realize their actual problem is different from the one they thought it was, and then you give them the steps to solve the new problem, they go away, action it, and get a result. And this doesn't mean they just value more. This actually creates reciprocity. I can't say it. This creates reciprocity. I can't say it. Why can't I say it? You know the word I mean. I'll put it on the screen. Now, this word I can't say basically means someone will want to give something back to you. And to give you an example of how powerful this is, I used to sell a $600 1-hour call. Someone booked on it once. And when I asked them, okay, what do you want to talk about? How can I help? They said, honestly, I don't really care. You've given me so much value for free. I just felt like I needed to give you some money. You're not trying to mind control anyone. You're just trying to genuinely help. And if you do that consistently, you don't need to sell in your content at all, because your viewers will already want to buy before you ever have to ask. The thing is, knowing how to create content that influences people to buy is great, but if you don't have a strategy to get clicks, or you don't understand how to stick out in crowded niches, nobody's going to see your video that uses the influence diamond. So watch this video next, and I'm going to show you exactly how to build a channel that positions you in the top 1% of a niche so you can actually compete.